Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Education for Tuesday, January 25th. We are now calling this meeting to order. Mrs. Smith, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Dr. Blau.
Here.
Mr. Walker.
Here.
Ms. Fox.
Here.
Ms. Heinrich.
Here.
I myself, I'm here. Mr. Rich.
Here.
And Ms. Weems.
I am here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We will now move to the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Coffin, would you lead us, please?
I sure can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We will now move to items from the president. We first have approval of the agenda. Mr. Rich?
Thank you. I move that the Board of Education approve the January 25th, 2022 regular meeting agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion to approve the agenda made by Mr. Rich, supported by Mrs. Smith. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No abstentions. Motion passes. Very good. We will now move to announcements. Welcome to the January 25th Farmington Board of Education regular meeting. The next meeting of the Board of Education will be held on February 8th, 2022 at 6 p.m. The meeting is open to the public and will be cablecast live on TV 10. FPS has a vision for high achievement for all of its students. Together with our community, we will engage every student in a quality learning experience, empowering each student to become a thoughtful, contributing citizen in a changing world. Please remember to silence all cell phones and electronic devices at this time. In addition, out of courtesy to those in the audience, we ask that you refrain from sidebar conversations and that you step out into the hallway if you feel the need to carry on a conversation. We thank you for your cooperation. For the safety of those in the room that are immunocompromised and to align with the Oakland County masking requirement for staff and students, we ask that all community members wear a mask. If you choose not to wear a mask, we have set up a room down the hall with a large screen TV that will stream this meeting. If you wish to express a public comment, you may return to this room at the time of public comment, express your comment, and then return to the viewing room. Public comment request cards are available in the back of the room and in the viewing room. If you would like to speak during public comment, please fill out a card and place it in the ceramic bowl that is at the end of this table next to Mrs. Sterling. Public comments will be shared after discussion items. This will be the opportunity to share general comments. If the public comment is intended to be critical of or express dissatisfaction with a particular staff member, a student, or a group, you are encouraged not to identify the person by name. You may request a private meeting with district representatives or utilize the complaint process found in our policy manual and administrative regulations manual, which provides for resolution at the closest point of origin. Generally, board members do not respond to public comment. The superintendent does not report to or respond to public comment either. During the board meeting, issues may be referred to the superintendent for investigation, study, and/or response. Today, our superintendent is ill and will not be able to attend this meeting, but we are in the very, very capable hands of our Assistant Superintendent of Innovation and Strategic Initiatives, Dr. Kelly Coffin, and Dr. Delgado will be back with us when he's feeling better. We will move next to board goals. At each board meeting, we review our progress on the goals that we as a board establish for ourselves. Pretty proud to continue to report that we are progressing very well in our goals. We met all of our goals for the 12/31 period, and now we're working on the rest of the year through 6/30. Okay, board goal number 1, board education. We are all certified. Yes, that's great. Now we're going to work on completing DEI training and also on developing a new member onboarding process. And we want to get that done by 6:30. I've also heard of an interest in determining what our training plan is for 2022, right? So we developed a plan for 2021 to get all of us certified, which was a huge accomplishment. The first time in over 10 years. Very proud of this board for that. But now the next question is, what sort of continuing education do we want for ourselves for 2022. So we'll talk about that. The next board goal is to explore innovation. We've met all of our goals there. Executing on our vision and strategy, we've met all of our goals, but we'll continue to ask board members to continue to tune into those strategic planning sessions. And then with respect to community engagement, thank you, Mr. Walker, for leading us with the community and communications engagement committee and having that plan put together by the end of the year. And also to board members for continuing to support events. Before we move on to items from the secretary, I did want to also make one more recognition of a community member who has, for the past several years, committed a ton of time. So the Farmington African American Parent Network is an organization that was started over 10 years ago to support all students in accomplishing their academic goals and potential. One of their signature programs is the Saturday tutoring session, which is a free tutoring session for all students across the district. There are volunteers, parent volunteers, teacher volunteers, student volunteers who offer to tutor students in a variety of different subjects. These volunteers participate every Saturday without fail and have for years, with the exception of the past, year and a half during COVID. But we noticed that FAPPIN recently started again. Lester Thomas has served as the president for the last several years, despite the fact that he no longer has kids in the district. So we wanted to recognize him, and especially as this is his last year, we wanted to say thank you. So we have a certificate. Mr. Thomas, if you would come on up and receive your certificate. This certificate of excellence is being presented to Lester Thomas. We want to say thank you for your several years of service. We know that there are many, many parents and volunteers like you. We appreciate you and everyone else. We also have this,
Wow.
little token of appreciation also to say thank you. So thank you again. Mr. Thomas, would you grace us with a few words?
Sure.
I know we kind of put you on the spot.
Yeah, I'm kind
How we like to do
of
things.
speechless. You all know me. If you know me, for me, it's about the children. I continue this even though my sons had graduated from the district because it was a passion of mine to see all children succeed. And I couldn't leave, and I still can't leave because it's important. It's in my heart. So I thank everybody. I particularly want to thank those who have been working closely with me, Zena Kyles, Thomas Hull, Daryl Gilliam was there, Kevin Weeks, Gia Peterson, LaSonia Solomon. If I'm missing anybody, forgive me. We have some new ones, new members, Santoria, April, Danielle, Ebony. So we're excited what the future is going on. I thank the board. I've had the pleasure of working with 3 superintendents, numerous board members, and I'm still here. So, but the last thing I want to say is this is really important to me, and I think every time I address the board, I say this. When you see a child drowning, it shouldn't make a difference what color you are, what your political affiliation is, or whatever. You should be willing to help that person, that child. And that's what we have to get to the point where we understand that we should be mature enough as adults to lay aside all our differences, because this climate we're in is teaching us that if we're different, we can't get along and we shouldn't work together. I disagree with that. I think we should be able to disagree, but still do what's best for our children. So I pray that that's the attitude that we as mature adults start to have so that we can really help our children, particularly the ones that are drowning. Thanks.
Mr. Rich.
I'm sorry, I don't like really calling people out, but it's particularly some of the board members that I've really worked closely with, Terry Weems, Zach, Angie Smith, Donald, and Mabel. Thank you all for everything and our relationship. I cherish it all.
Thank you. Mr. Rich.
A few years ago, before I became a board member, when this started in the basement with Sheila Clay, this started with a school board member and with Sue Servalik. I was totally against working with FAPPIN because I'm for all children, as much as many people don't believe that. And my thing was, if we were going to do for one, we should do for all. Well, then after I saw what was being done, how they took the role of doing this at Harrison High School, I became interested. And then upon that, after getting elected, I saw what this program does. They work hand in hand with our PTA, which is Jen Garland and Beth Hewlett, and they work with not just trying to help students that look different, they were for every child. And you know, for people to reach out and say, well, it's just for African Americans. No, it's not. This room on the past couple of Saturdays, and we have board members here that will attest to that, including Dr. Blau, who comes in and tutors. This room was filled with people of all ethnicities and people that volunteered of all ethnicities. Thomas and Lester and Zena has worked together to make sure that there were breakfasts served. Terry Weems would make sure there was coffee and donuts and everything here. And for an organization to have so many fathers, I've read emails throughout this whole crisis how there's no fathers that are involved, especially of my ethnicity. And every meeting that we have gone to, there has been a father. So I want to thank Lester Thomas and the FAPPIN group for not only being there for children that look like me and also of my other background, which is Latino. I applaud you for not turning away any child, that you have been here for every child in this district. You didn't say when a student walked up, they were not welcome. They were all treated equally. So I thank you. And like my grandfather used to say, every goodbye ain't gone, so we know you're not gone. So thank you, Lester, for all the hard work that you've done.
Thank you. Mr. Rich.
Thank you. I don't want to rehash a lot of what Ms. Smith has said. She hit the nail on the head. And I remember when I first started looking at running for school board, Lester was one of the first people I reached out to talk because one, he was so ingrained in our district and in our community, and he's one of those people who will tell you how it is. He's not going to sugarcoat things just because it might make you uncomfortable. When he saw that there was a problem, he would address it. If he wasn't the person to fix it, he found out who was and worked his butt off to make sure that it got done. And so having Lester's service to our community is something that cannot be understated, just how important that has been. Thank you so much for your service and your continued service, because as Ms. Smith said, you say that you're leaving. I've heard that you've been leaving for the last few years. You're like, well, my son is a senior and then I'm out of here, and you're still here helping us out. So thank you so much and look forward to seeing you soon.
Mr. Walker.
Just very quickly, I want to say, as one of those fathers who are, as a man, you don't always find school communities very welcoming to men coming in and wanting to be a parent to their child and be an advocate for their child. So as one of those fathers who you made to feel, you and the entire FAPPIN group made to feel very, very comfortable and allowed to be very, very involved with the advocacy of his daughter, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for what you've done. Thank you for what you did. Thank you for what you're going to do. Thank you.
Again, we appreciate, this entire board appreciates all of the work that FAPPIN does, and every last one of us has been to a Super Saturday or supported in some way. So thank you to the entire board. When this was presented as a possible topic, there was no question. So again, we appreciate you. We will now move to our next item on the agenda, which is items from the secretary. Mrs. Smith?
Thank you, Ms. Weems. The board has received communications regarding remote learning, the 21-day challenge, and support and thanks for the district's DEI work. Communications are acknowledged, and when appropriate, a response is provided. A list of correspondence can be found in the board packet, which is available on the Farmington Public Schools website.
Thank you. Now moving to, I will move from the report from the Student Roundtable President, because I do not believe that we have Student Roundtable representation today. I'm looking up and confirming that we do not today, so we will bring that topic back up. But do we have a legislative update, Dr. Lau?
It's very interesting here. Let me just grab the actual wording. The Senate Education Committee heard testimony only on HB 4074, which would encourage districts to offer a program of instruction in free enterprise and entrepreneurship. This bill previously passed the House 9513. So this was a Senate hearing on a bill encouraging instruction in free enterprise and entrepreneurship. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to district updates, and we have our superintendent update being presented today by Dr. Coffin.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Weems. Dr. Delgado had a few things that he wanted to make sure that we shared this evening. First, we all want to welcome our secondary students back for their second semester, and especially welcoming our seniors, as this will be their last semester with us as part of our FPS community here at school. So happy for all of them as we kick off the second semester. We would also like to thank our strategic planning leaders, the leadership groups, the eight goal areas. So all of our leadership committees came together, and it was a great opportunity for our goal area leaders to be able to connect their work, and they started to see how each of the committees fit together into a bigger a piece of really working towards our goals here at Farmington Public Schools. Dr. Delgado also, on behalf of the district, would like to thank the Farmington Community Library for hosting our Community MLK Junior Celebration, and to Dr. Goodrum for facilitating a wonderful student panel, as well as all the community members who participated. It was a wonderful event, and we're so appreciative of that partnership. And last but certainly not least, I would like to ask Ms. Beth Hewlett to come up, and Beth would like to share some information with the Board of Education as part of Board Recognition Month.
Hello, everybody. Just waiting for several of my fellow board members were able to make it tonight. A couple of them were unable to make it, but we have Kelly Carpenter Crawford, who's our Vice President of Enrichments, Nancy Jennings, our Vice President of, Enrichment, I said it backwards. Kelly's Community Engagement, Nancy works with Enrichments, and Jenna Garland works with Advocacy. So we are here tonight because we join communities nationwide in celebration and in recognizing January 2022 as School Board Recognition Month. And we acknowledge the work of our Board of Education, whose dedication and civic responsibility make local control of schools possible. Our school board, as elected by our community, advocates for students as they work with parents, teachers, school administrators, and local community groups for the betterment of public education. This engagement links our Farmington Public Schools. This engagement links our Farmington public community to the classroom, and it helps develop a better understanding of the needs, concerns, and expectations. The ultimate goal of this engagement is to focus the community on answering this question: what must this community look like in order for all children to succeed? Article 8, Section 2 of the Michigan Constitution helps to answer that. And in part, it says that every school district shall provide for the education of its pupils without discrimination as to religion, creed, race, color, or national origin. Like boards of PTA, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time focusing tonight. Like boards of education, PTAs also work to be a bridge between the community and the classroom, and to answer that same question about what must this community look like for all children to succeed. PTA's mission is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. We acknowledge the potential of everyone, inclusive of diverse experiences, including age, culture, economic status, educational background, ethnicity, gender, geographic location, legal status, marital status, mental ability, national origin, organizational position, parental status, physical ability, political philosophy, race, religion, sexual orientation, and work experience. Our association values truth, science, and research, and we believe that students should have an honest and fair understanding of how our nation's history has unfolded. We encourage the implementation of diverse and inclusive curricula in K-12 public schools. We believe that classrooms that acknowledge diverse histories and cultures break down existing barriers and create supportive and inclusive schools. Additionally, Michigan PTA supports local school board actions that comprehensively address racism, discrimination, hate, implicit bias, disparate outcomes for students of color, culturally responsive teaching, trauma-informed care, and professional development. And this is demonstrated also by the Michigan State Board of Education's work to eradicate racism as part of the Michigan Department of Education's revision of the Top 10 in 10 strategic plan. So I say all of this to say that during School Board Recognition Month and all year long, we thank you for your service and upholding the Michigan Constitution as you work for the betterment of the education of all children. Thank you.
I would like to just take a quick moment to say thank you. Thank you to the Michigan PTA, and thank you to the 4 super women who represent our local PTAs for your support. I am a huge fan of PTAs and have been since, I came to Farmington Public Schools. And it has a whole lot to do with the work that you guys do. It's very similar to the work that we do and the mission that we have. So thank you for your support. Thank you for coming here today and for sharing that with us. We really, really appreciate it. Dr. Coffin?
All right. Next, we have our monthly DEI update. So I want to introduce Dr. Bobby Hayes Goodrum, Assistant Superintendent of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
While we were getting this presentation ready, I just want to remind everybody, including our board members, I just had to remind myself to mute your turn your phones on to silent so that we don't get any ringing.
Good evening, Board of Education. And I don't think I said this last time we met, so happy School Board Member Month. Thank you. Because really, as I speak to my colleagues across the state, in the work that we do, which is again to ensure that every single student has what they need in order to be successful. Every student. The thing that has been most critical in this work going forward has been support from the Board of Education. And so I just want to take a moment to thank you all for support in this very important work that we do. Because as we have expressed multiple times, Farmington is an extraordinarily diverse community. And when we speak about diversity, of course, we speak about diversity of perspectives, diversity of experiences, diversity of socioeconomic status, just all of the things that Ms. Hewlett mentioned, all of the things that Mr. Fisk mentioned. We just have people who come from all walks of life. And every single student that comes before us, we have the responsibility to make sure that we are providing them, the students that we see every day, we have to provide them with the skills that they need in order to be successful. And to that end, I am super excited today to bring to you our Community Support Services team, which is a new team that, a newish team. And I'll say a newish team because it used to be just Hattie and Teresa trying to save the lives of every child in this district. But we are super happy to have been able to expand this team last year. And so now we have Hattie Lagon, who is still our homeless coordinator, Shannon Daniels, who is our Access and Opportunity Coordinator. We also have with us today Shanae Thomas, who is our Community Service Liaison. Not with us today is Teresa Barabic, but you all know her, and right now, you all know what's going on, and it's hitting everybody, and it's hitting everyone hard, so we wish Teresa a speedy recovery. But again, this team is going to talk to you about what we are doing for the students and the families of this community. And these things, we know that if you don't have a stable place to live, if you don't have food, if you don't have clothing, if you have certain issues in your family that need to be resolved, you're not in a place to learn. You cannot access education. And so again, because our responsibility is to make sure that all of our students have access and opportunities, this is the team that works to coordinate with multiple community organizations to ensure that that happens. And so I present to you Community Support Services.
Well, good evening, illustrious school board. We are very excited to be here, and we thank you for that wonderful opening, Dr. Goodrum. We are indeed the Community Support Services Department, and we are powered by the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department of Farmington Public Schools. We provide resource interventions, and we attempt to eliminate barriers for all Farmington Public School students. Teresa Barrick, as Dr. Goodrum mentioned, is unable to be with us today due to COVID, but she is definitely a superstar of this team and has been in this department for quite some time, over 5 years at least, I know. She's our homeless liaison, and she wears many hats, actually. So I'm Shanae Coleman, and I'm the Community Support Services Liaison. I was recently hired in August at the beginning of this school year. My family has just moved into this community. We live here in Farmington Hills, 2 students at Wood Creek, 1 student at Warner. My husband and I moved here from East Lansing, Michigan, so just down the road, where I'm formerly a teacher at in English language at MSU, and also in the nonprofit sector as a development coordinator. So I'm really excited to be a part of this team doing the work that we get to do.
Hi there. Sorry. Hi there. I'm Shannon Daniel. I'm the new Access and Opportunity Coordinator. I've been in the district probably almost 25 years now. I don't have children in the district. 2 of my nephews are Farmington graduates. My mother just recently retired last year, and my cousin works at
Alameda, and so we definitely have a definite stake in this district. I recently left first grade classroom. I had been in there for about 9 years. I can't keep track at this point. I'm a little old. So, and then prior to that, I was an instructional coach, literacy interventionist, and then also obviously a classroom teacher prior to that. So thank you for having us tonight.
Hi, and I'm Hattie Lagan, and I'm the parent, McKinney-Vento, and foster care coordinator. I've actually been in the district 27 years, and I added that up tonight, and I was like, oh, is it time for me to retire? I formerly a special education teacher for 20 years, so that's where my heart is, and 7 years in this role. And so the homeless McKinney-Vento foster care parent engagement has completely taken over my life, and I love every minute of it.
Excellent. We also have new leadership. We have Christopher O'Brien as our, he's taken the reins just recently, you all know, this month. And so we're excited to have him and his new ideas and new blood to direct our CSS ship. And of course, we also are governed by Dr. Goodrum and the diversity and equity and inclusion. So, next slide, please. Or do I do it? Oh, I'm sorry. And I forgot to, I forgot to. Running the show. I forgot to mention, because my little boy is probably at home watching this. I live in Farmington, and I have a son at Power Middle School. He's in the 6th grade. Shout out to Eli. You should be eating dinner and getting ready for your bath. And your college-age students as well. Okay, excellent. Apparently, we're running our own slides tonight. Excellent. So, why do we need a community support services? And the answer to that question is educational equity. And we know that Farmington Public Schools is powered by, or really believes in, and focuses highly on educational equity. We have the definition here for you to take a glance at and possibly read, but we just want to share that in a nutshell, we want to see all students of Farmington Public School succeed regardless of their socioeconomic status. As Dr. Goodrum listed some of this as well, their home life, their academic challenges or their social challenges, their hardships and barriers. We want all children to receive the support that they may need. In the face of the pandemic, you, the board of Farmington Public School, had the foresight to prepare for the present increase of students that are in need of extra support. And so we just want to say thank you for that, because for this reason, our department was able to double in size as Hattie went to bat for us before we were even in these roles. But really, she went to bat for children, and you all received her ringing the bell, and Dr. Goodrum, taking that on. And so that allowed for us to double the size in this department and address all student needs beyond just homeless and foster care students. So the decision was necessary to ensure that all students receive a quality experience and have a better chance to be contributing citizens in this changing world. Okay. So now you're wondering, what do we do? Yeah. Look, what do we do? The areas that were previously covered were McKinney-Vento, homeless, and foster care. McKinney-Vento is a federally mandated law that requires intake, enrollment, transportation, academic casework, parent engagement, and providing resources. Foster care does mirror a lot of McKinney-Vento services. However, working with a DHS worker and or foster care, foster parents.
Okay. To add on to that, we have heavily worked on intervention resource acquisition. What do we mean by that? Providing support for families with internet housing, medical, clothing, financial, and food resources. Supplying those lists, connections, and so forth. As we know, almost 25% of our district is free and reduced lunch. Those school fees and supplies, that's a heavy burden for a lot of our families. We have spent quite a bit of time on that. I have this on here twice, I'm so sorry about that. Senior year expenses, that's definitely something that can be a hardship for many of our families. Some types of transportation, and then a big part too is those community alliances and partnerships. We're spending a lot of time making sure that those connections are happening. A piece that I'm really excited about is partnering with the Farmington Public Library and Neighborhood House, and some great projects that are coming out of those partnerships. Those are just two to announce. MTSS, or multi-tiered system of support work, a big piece of that, and we're a lot of it does overlap, but that parent engagement. So those title nights at our Title I buildings, we have done parent focus groups. We'll continue to do those this year through also the lens of that Parent University, which is a pilot program at Lanigan Elementary School. And then, of course, parent meetings and phone calls. We do a lot of that in emails. But the phone calls and those meetings, we get a lot of data out of that. And then finally, we have some EL support, primarily that resource acquisition, specifically for English language learners. Okay.
Okay, so let's take a look at some of the numbers. Currently, we have 125 McKinney-Vento students enrolled in Farmington Public Schools. We have 142 foster care students enrolled in Farmington Public Schools. And out of that 125, there are 15 unaccompanied youth, and those are students who do not reside with a parent or guardian. So pretty much kind of on their own. So really, those are the students that we provide a lot of case management for.
Okay, and this slide, again, this is all of our McKinney-Vento families. We showed this slide because I just thought it was impactful to look at the fact that our highest percentages are in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And so really driving home that need to ensure that our students are successful and graduating. Then I'm going to move on, and what we did is, as a department, we were getting a lot of requests. Matter of fact, before I walked in here, I got a text message for a request, not a student referral request per se, official. Yes, yeah, it'll work. But what we decided to do is it's not allowing us to.
It does not.
No.
We tried.
We tried. So we were, that's okay, I'll talk about it real quick. We were collecting all this information via email and like I said, text messages and phone calls and what have you. But I kind of am a little bit of a data nerd, so I do want to collect that data because we want to make sure that we are solving problems, we're removing barriers, we are responding to our families. And so as of October 12th, we implemented a student referral form. So basically, it doesn't matter who, it's up on our website. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I thought I was loud enough. Sorry, I'm thrown off a little bit there. That's okay. That we want everybody to have access to this. So it's up on our website. I've had many families now contact me in terms of a student referral. So they choose some of those areas of need, then we call, we respond, and we hope to make those connections for those families. What we were looking at in this doesn't seem, it's not very comprehensive right now, again, because it started October 12th. It's about 3 months, but in between that, we're still fielding and we're still trying to get all of our schools on board by utilizing the form, okay? So by 2022-23, it should be more comprehensive. But right now, we have acknowledged and supported academic resources for 53 students, outdoor clothing 141, and that is primarily coats and boots and gloves and so forth. And snow pants. Oh, and snow pants. We cannot forget those snow pants. Please don't. Yes. Food insecurity is not necessarily represented on this graph because, again, we haven't captured all that data correctly, but it is a huge request for us. And then other clothing, specifically gym shoes. So having to have an additional pair of shoes for the building. Okay. Oops, sorry.
Thank you. So we have the privilege of managing Operation Common Good, which is, you see the logo there, For Kids by Kids. That is an organization that was started by Farmington students who wanted to support their peers that may have any needs that weren't being met or wanted to make sure that all of their peers were getting what they needed. So they started fundraising, and they did it under Operation Common Good. And we now partner with FYA, Farmington Youth Assistance, to help make sure that Operation Common Good continues. Did you want to?
No, I just.
Okay.
I was just reassuring you.
Okay, thank you. We are truly a team, and it is, it's really a privilege. I don't know how many people get to work in a team setting, especially as educators. As teachers, we often work in silos in our classroom, right? But because of the large amount of work that we encounter in our office, it is nice to be able to do it as a group. One of the things that we were first hit with in September is the top corner there. You'll see lots of school supplies and backpacks. We had so many community organizations that wanted to give school supplies, and we don't turn them down. We say, oh, please. Well, our office was overflowing, and Shannon was able to create a Google form for teachers to fill out requests for school supplies, not just for extra for themselves, but also for students that had come and were unable to maybe afford supplies, especially just coming off of COVID. So we had daily trips to every school in the district, all 20. It was wonderful. All of the times that we got to go and see students and drop off supplies, and that's one of the best parts of my job. And then we moved into October, and we knew that Hattie had actually started this years ago, knowing that a lot of students were unable to get Halloween costumes. And Halloween is something that our community does celebrate, and usually our elementary schools are having parades and parties, and we didn't want any student to be left out in that process. So we procured and passed out over 150 Halloween costumes. And it was so fun because, then we got to see the kids enjoy them. And from there, it started to get colder outside. And so we had to open up the coat closet, which we moved to East Middle School because we have our main office here in this building, but at East Middle School, we also have what we have turned into our coat closet. And you'll see some pictures down below there of coats, snow pants, boots, and it has been a wonderful thing starting in October to have the student needs referral forms. We literally get them sent to our email requesting size 5 boots and 10-12 snow pants for a girl. And then I go over to the coat closet, or any of us go over to the coat closet, we pack it up. We're very much, like a school Gap, I don't know, but it's good because we know that our students are able to continue their play at recess, right? No matter whether mom and dad could find it. We've had a lot of families that have called and said, we can't find snow pants anywhere. They're not in the stores. Well, thankfully, Hattie ordered them all. So we're able to help provide them.
That's that foresight.
That's that foresight, yes. So we've been really excited to just see that there's no child without the winter gear that they need. And then that moved us into, you'll see the car full of gifts. We had many community organizations, once again, donating Christmas or holiday items so that every child over the winter break would have the opportunity to have something special given just for them. We had over 200 families that participated this year. And it's just great because we know that kids come back to school first thing in January and say, what'd you get, right? And so we want all of our students to make sure they can take part in that social piece, right? So you'll see we also do a lot with transportation. Down at the bottom, we have a wall there of just, it looks like just a paper mess, but honestly, that's casework. Like, there's always 10 names that are going around, you know, do we have everything for them yet? Have we met this need? Have we met this need? And so this is just kind of a snapshot for you to see all the areas that we, that get the most of our manpower.
Oops. Okay. And then we just wanted to add a few extra pictures, again, not exhaustive, but some of those alliances and partnerships that we have created this 2021-22 school year. And again, that's not just on us, it's from other members, community members, school board members, I'm sorry, and then also FPS employees. I've got to, for sure, Diane, thank you so much for aligning a lot of that. But the backpacks, we have a group in downtown Farmington that we work very closely with. Our religious organizations, the Shanae's out and into the student councils, talking about Operation Common Good, so that we can support a lot of that work, okay?
Coat drives.
The coat drives, yep. So.
And we would just like to acknowledge the board. Because of you, you guys had the foresight in doubling this department, and we have been able to support hundreds of students to meet basic needs in order to be successful in school. And we just wanted to say thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you.
Just one moment. Mrs. Fox.
Yes. I would like to truly thank each and every one of you for the work that you do. This work is very important. It must make you feel very good each and every day that you're helping people. The work that you do, I'm just kind of overwhelmed a little bit because when you look at foster care children, I adopted 2 boys when they were babies from foster care, and they ended up with IEPs here in Farmington for the entire time. And I just can't tell you how important your work is beyond almost anything else. I can tell you that Mrs. Lagan, Hattie, was my children's special ed teacher, both of them.
Yes, I did have that pleasure to have those boys. Thank you.
And the commitment, we worked as a partner. We worked as a partner. Anytime anything was going on that didn't sound right, Hattie would talk to me, I would talk to Hattie. It's more than just the talk, it's what they actually do. I'll just sum up by saying my youngest son, Mikhail, he would come home and he says, you know what, Mom? Mrs. Lagan, she's my school mama because she's just like you. So I want to thank you. I'm just melting. I want to thank you for doing what you do for people who struggle. I just want to thank you so much.
Okay, so Mabel, I just have to tell you that I was just sharing with my team the other day, and I said, let me tell you this story about Mabel Fox. I had her son in my class, and he would often leave everything behind at Warner.
Everything.
So this was a usual ritual of mine to run behind him. And one day, he wasn't supposed to get on the bus. She was there to pick him up, but he was getting on the bus with no coat, and I'm running, chasing him. Here's your coat. You can't go without your coat. And so she remembers this story. And she like tells me all the time, and I'm just laughing. I'm like, well, that's because that's what we do, right? So, no, so thank you. I mean, honestly, a lot of those characteristics that I had in my classroom and is what we bring to this department. I mean, we powwow all the time. We fight each other within to make sure that we are basically providing all of the services and support to the very top and maximum level. And so a lot of times that does look like that we are kind of pulling against each other, but we all have that same common goal. So, yep, thank you.
And I just want to say one more thing in that Operation
Common Good.
Yeah. We can all donate to that. It's very easy to donate to them, and the money goes for a very, very good service.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Blau and then Mrs. Smith.
We sit here at the board table and we hear about the different initiatives happening in the district and we support them. You make it happen. You're on the ground, in the trenches, making it happen for our students and our families. We are so grateful to you for what you do for each of our students and their families.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
To echo what my colleagues have said, thank you so much for all the work that you've done. I also want to say thank you to Dr. Goodrum and to Mr. O'Brien. When this position came available, Mr. O'Brien stepped up and decided that he was going to put his name in the hat and run for this, well, go for this position. And it couldn't have gone to a better person to take this role and to apply for being here to do the work that you all are doing. So I want to thank you for that. But I have a comment. We know that COVID is real, and we know that students are losing parents. Not only are they losing parents, parents are losing jobs. So thank you for being diligent and working hard to find those parents and working hard to probably not say place students, but look and be diligent in your work and making sure those, because people tend to forget. Just because COVID hits doesn't mean you just got a couple of coughs and a couple of sniffles. People are losing their children, and children are losing their parents. So I thank you for doing the work that you do, and keep doing what you do, and welcome again to Mr. O'Brien and Dr. Goodrum and all of the team that is working with you. And if you need any help, just call me and I will donate and do whatever it is. Now, I ain't buying no snow pants because I don't know how to do that. 'Cause all of my kids
That's
are
okay. That's okay, because I bought them all.
Thank you.
I want to echo everything that my colleagues just said, but before I speak, Mrs. Heinrich and then Mr. Walker.
Yeah, you can't hear thank you enough, so yeah, the appreciation for everything that you're doing. Just a couple of questions, just because I'm curious, I guess, but Operation Common Good, and you showed the room where is that, we centralize services, is that something that you keep here, or is it in conjunction with another agency, or?
Yes, it's actually in conjunction with Farmington Youth Assistance.
Okay.
We partnered with them newly this year, so shout out to Farmington Youth Assistance, and they're amazing. And so we try to do like a wraparound services so we can help students in every aspect. So a lot of times we work together, not only they provide like the case management services, but we want to make sure that all of the resource services mirror that and match it as well. So Operation Common Good has been, intricate in a lot of the resources that we provide students in this district. So, the list is extensive. I can even tell you stories of lice nanny down to, maybe buying a tire for a family. And those are all unique things that a school district does not provide, but we know that it's necessary for sometimes for families and students to be successful, to have those basic needs taken care of.
Yeah, and I'm just asking that just because I've got my mom hat and my grandma hat on and stuff, and it's just families, we have a lot of stuff, And it's just like knowing places that things can get passed on to, when you were talking about Halloween costumes and coats and boots and, cleaning those things out so that the community is aware of like where to go. Like, it's like, so contact you and you'll tell us where to take it.
Yeah, so definitely contact us through the CSS email.
Okay.
And then we've been working closely with Foster Closet, which takes a lot of items for children, like your old Halloween costumes, coats, things like that. We did receive funding. We were able to write and receive a grant for outerwear this year. So that is why we've been able to buy up all the snow pants and things like that.
Okay.
And then some, yeah. And so we are super excited and grateful for all of our donations. We just ask that the clothing is, gently used, clean, and not torn or things like that. So we have a few guidelines.
Right, and a lot of our biggest issues is that we don't have storage. And so our offices are here, and as you can see, if you walk in the hallway, like, we own the hallway, like, literally. It was funny, Chris over here, our new boss was like, we need to clean this up. And so, like, we are exploding. We are literally using probably about, I'm not exaggerating, like 3 different areas in this building. And we have a room at East that was supposed to be a parent resource center, and we will be using that for parents to come in and, get help with MyStar and, do small parent groupings. But right now, we're storing all of the coats and snow pants there because we just couldn't house them all here. So we are trying to be very creative when it comes to collecting things, because we really don't have a whole lot of storage. So we like to get it out. Like, we want to, get it out as soon as we get it in.
Right. Yeah, I get that too. And the other thing, earlier in your presentation, you talked about you had a pilot program at Lanigan, the Parent University. Can you just explain what that is? Is that I'm just curious, is it a parenting program or is it?
So there's parenting universities across the country. So it's actually not really something that's like super new. But for us, it would be, and it really is going to be hopefully responsive to the needs of families. So we're calling it a parent university now, but it might have a different name. That's kind of the goal, right? Is to involve, it really is the goal of involving our community back into our schools. So we start with the parent component of it, like, what are some programming that you hope to see? What are some barriers that you are seeing? So we also have the strategic groups on top of that, right? But this is a little bit more intimate. And again, we're piloting it just at one building because there've already been some kind of hiccups, right? So we want to start small, and then eventually, as a district, we'll come to an agreement how that's going to look with definite community input. But like pie in the sky, it would be like, I'm partnering with one of our financial groups right now, and he wants to do financial classes for free for our families. So that could be one of those modules or classes that we could offer. So that's like in the big picture, but right now we're focused just on Lanigan and what do those families need for that building, so that building can be responsive to the needs of those families.
So it's supporting the child, but supporting the family also, which supports the child. And so it's the whole
It's the whole
partnership.
child.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's the whole child, the whole partnership, school community.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you for the work that you're doing.
Get to echo my colleagues in terms of their things. But as I'm sitting here and I'm listening to the work that this particular department is doing, and it is obviously reminiscent of all the work that all of the departments within our district are doing, I'm really struck by the fact that when we hear people complain about we don't need DEI in our district, I look at you and you represent DEI. You represent the diversity of people who you have to deal with on different socioeconomic needs, whatever those needs happen to be. You go up to some, you come down to others. I see the equity in what you're trying to do, to try and bring everybody to the same place, so that a child who we take these things for granted, A child who comes to school the day after Halloween, who didn't have a costume, and listens to all the other kids who did and how they had these wonderful experiences, now shrinks and shies away, it might be that much harder to reach with the teacher when all they needed was a costume, but their families couldn't afford that situation. But you step in and you create that equity there. And in doing all of that, that creates an inclusive environment where the kids get to come to school and just be kids. You are DEI, your work is DEI, your leadership in this is DEI. You represent the kind of safety we want to see in our schools, and people think safety like, well, our kids are safe, nothing's happening to them. Safety is so many different things. Being able to be visible in the classroom, to participate in the classroom, to know I'm on the same level as everybody else in the classroom makes me feel safe and comfortable. Now I can sit up here and I can learn. So to say thank you to what you guys, what this department does, is not enough. It's not enough. But right now all we have is thank you.
Thank you, and you're welcome. Thank you.
So,
Go ahead, Terry. No, I was just, sorry. I was just going to say, what came to mind is that one of our principals said to me, he's like, Shannon, he's like, for so many people, something so small, like in referring to a Halloween costume, right? That's so small, but really is so big.
Yeah, it is.
I didn't realize until about 7 years ago that there were so many students and families in our district who were food insecure and home insecure. I had no idea. But I realized that it's not enough just to put someone in a positive environment, which is Farmington Public Schools, without the necessary supports, right? Including basic needs, access to resources, and targeted parent engagement. And that's what you guys are doing. I remember when I first found out that there were many students and families in our district that were insecure. I encountered someone who became a friend of mine, and my kids play with their kids, and when I found out, I thought, oh my goodness, and I immediately went to the district and asked for some support and some resources, and I didn't realize that Ms. Ligon had already been in contact with that family. And I thought, oh, good, well, this is great. I was so impressed by what you did for that family, how you helped them get their feet underneath them, and to where they are today is just outstanding, and I'm really proud of that. Every time I ask, where can I help, you give me a list. There's no questions asked. Here, go visit these families. Every year for the past few years for Thanksgiving, I want to get a list of families who could use some support. Here you go. There's no questions asked, and I'm just in awe of what you do. And I know that it must be taxing, but at the same time, so rewarding. So thank you for what you're doing.
We often describe it as exhausting yet rewarding, because we know that it completely makes a difference for students to be successful. And all of us have that passion bleeding through our souls. And so we would just like to, our district to because a lot of people are like, we didn't even know you guys existed. We're like, where have you been? But no, we are making a conscious effort of going to more staff meetings, getting on agendas so we can speak, especially now that our department has grown and we do offer so much more. And we are loving every minute of exploring every single day of figuring it out as we go.
We appreciate what you're doing, especially in this environment when the COVID environment has really exacerbated and highlighted inequities. It's really important to make sure, as an example, our kids have technology, right? And internet accessibility. That is the core of what we're talking about when we mean equity. So
And contact us. That's our department.
Thank you.
The
Thank you
hotspot
so
internet.
much.
That is our department.
We applaud you.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, so each month we have the opportunity to recognize innovative practices that are happening throughout our district. And so tonight we're thrilled to be able to learn more about one of our innovative programs, the PrEP program. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Jackie McDougall and her team to share more.
Thank you. Good evening, Board and Dr. Coffin. We just, I'm going to say thank you to CSS because they have been amazing even to our department. And it's a good segue into what we're going to do. So I just want to say thank you for allowing the Special Education Department to share with you some of the wonderful things that we're doing across the district. I also want to say thank you, Board, for all the work that you've done, for supporting our programs, for helping out in ways, especially at Visions and other departments that have made us look good. I have with me tonight Doreen Forster, who is the principal and supervisor at Visions, and Leah Van Amberg, who is our transition consultant. Missing with us is Teresa Gallivan, who is the teacher at PrEP. I'm going to let Leah come up and talk for a few minutes, and then we'll answer any questions you might have.
Right. Scan it, find our thing here. Thank you.
Escape.
Escape.
Okay.
Slideshow. There we go.
Yep.
You got it. All
Okay. There you
right.
go.
This is the end of it, though. Oh, Lord. Sorry. All right. Sorry about that. Good evening. I'm, like Dr. McDougall said, I'm Leah Van Amberg. I've been working for Farmington Public Schools for about 13 years now in special education. I'm a passionate advocate for students in special education. So I really thank you for the opportunity to share the innovative way that Farmington Public Schools provides real experiences for post-secondary success to our adult students receiving special education services, or PrEP. So why PrEP? In Michigan, students are eligible for special education services until they earn a high school diploma or until age 26. PrEP was developed specifically to meet the needs of our over 18-year-old students who did not earn a high school diploma but continue to need instruction and/or training on job skills, independent living, and community participation. These students also have the drive and desire to learn and master these skills in 2 to 3 years post-high school. So what is PrEP? PrEP is a unique adult transition program empowering students receiving special education services to achieve their goals in employment, community involvement, and independent living. It starts with providing instruction in essential skills like time management. How do I manage my work and school schedule? Problem solving, self-advocacy, how to ask for help, for a raise, time off, and other skills such as interpersonal, communication, personal safety, technology, and flexibility. So what makes PrEP so innovative? How is it different from other adult transition programs? Location, for one. We run a classroom on the campus of Oakland Community College, the Orchard Ridge campus. Our students are on campus with their same-age peers, the OCC students. Expectations are high for our PrEP students. They have to manage their class and work schedules, navigate the campus. They use the library and cafeteria just as their peers do. And here is a point of pride. PrEP is the only program in Oakland County delivering transition instruction on a college campus. PrEP is all student-driven as opposed to teacher-assigned. Students are empowered through facilitated learning where the teacher is a life coach helping our students set goals and implement a plan to achieve those goals. Scheduling at PrEP is innovative in that students spend half of their week at a paid job that they found or a volunteer opportunity, and the other half in the classroom. PrEP empowers students by providing instruction in how to lead their own individualized education planning meeting, or IEP. At this meeting, they present their strengths, challenges, interests, and progress they've made on the goals they set for themselves. Prep also provides instruction in community navigation. Students have to be able to get to and from work and to and from school. So for most, that means learning how to use the smart bus system. Prep also helps students get connected to the community resources they may need, such as Michigan Rehabilitation Services, applying for supplemental security income, housing resources, and insurance such as Medicaid. But enough from me. Let's listen to a couple of past and present students tell you what they have learned from their time at Prep.
I get to choose morning or afternoon scheduling, and I get to count work as school.
It just helps me learn about the adult world. My ultimate goal was to move out, but right now I'm currently learning on how to cook my own meals, pay my first bills, and file my taxes.
Basically, my pay stub, for example. That's one of my goals as well. Knowing how much I get paid per hour, knowing the amount of hours I work.
Step out of my comfort zone by actually going to an interview and knowing what to say at an interview.
We're at Beaumont Commons, a retirement center. We're by the dishwasher. I've been working here for about 2 months, almost 3. It's been great.
So running my own IEP is pretty exciting. I actually run it. I tell people my thoughts and decisions I want to make, my own goals.
I love the people. Having good coworkers, having nice coworkers makes the day a lot easier, because when you're having a hard day, you can just talk to a coworker, have some laughs, work. You always have a helping hand when you need it.
Hey, I'm calling for dial a ride, please.
Oh, I don't want to do that. Nobody wants to see it again. Sorry. Okay, here we are. So if it weren't for Prep's innovative delivery model of instruction, many students may have simply left high school after attending 4 years without achieving their goals. So, as you heard from students, the outcomes are the most impressive factor about Prep. Directly after completing the program, 93% of 93% of students are employed, 33% moved on to further education and/or career training, and 11% are living independently. These are great points of pride. I thank you for allowing us to highlight Prep as an innovative program, and to the board for your continued support. We are happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Mr. Walker.
The question will come after the comment. This is just absolutely spectacular. As a parent of a special needs son who made it through the district and is blessed to be very fortunate. He's working, he's living as independent, he's almost like a squatter in my home at this point. Okay, he's working. But you have, people won't have any idea or don't have any idea how, and I use the word burden not in a negative sense, but the difficulty, the worry, the concern you as a parent have when you look at your child and you wonder, how are they going to just do what I do? Come home, fix a meal, sit in front of the TV, go to work, and just enjoy those basic elements of independence. And then to try and teach that to that child while you're still trying to deal with other aspects of being a parent or just being an adult, that's tremendously difficult. This must be the don't take life for granted day here for our board. Because these things we do take for granted, but we have a population of students and people who don't have access to it. And to provide this kind of transitional service, this level of independence, and those smiles, that energy. The day my son came home and he got his first real 40-hour-a-week job, he cried, which means everybody else in the house cried. You know, this is absolutely spectacular. And whatever you need, however I can support it, certainly, I want to. And I just wanted to have a question about the student-driven part versus teacher-assigned. Was that what the young lady referenced by when she said that she writes her own IEP? Is that what you meant by student-driven? Again, pushing that independence and thinking about how you develop yourself, that level of empowerment. Congratulations.
Mr. Walker, it's not just them being able to write and speak about their own IEP. It's them becoming more independent. They say, this is what I want to do. I want to work on cars. I want to work in a restaurant. I want to work in a hospital. And we hook them up to whatever it is that they want. We teach them how to do it. We do the practice interviewing and, of course, helping them to get transportation. So they indicate what they want, and we move towards that.
I want to underscore that because I just had an experience with my son 2 nights ago where he came home and he asked his mom, can I go to my job and ask them to change my vacation time because there was a change in this Comic-Con that he wants to go to. They know. And I looked at him and I said, son, you don't have to ask us to ask your people. You have everything. We went through this whole exercise for about 30 minutes to get him the confidence necessary to walk into the job and do it. He did it. He came home, big smile on his face. I said, did you get it changed? He said, I got it changed. I said, see, you have every, and so we're going through all of this. But to have that as a part of what the district provides, what you provide, is immeasurable, absolutely immeasurable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Smith?
Again, equity and inclusion.
That's it.
So with that being said, this whole record that keeps playing out in this community that it's all about race. Equity and inclusion is about these students. It's about students that are financially unhealthy. It is about students of different ethnicities. So again, equity and inclusion, this is a part of equity and inclusion. Now, going back 59 years ago, I'm 59. And when I grew up, during those times, and I had a neighbor that had a family member that had special needs. That child was able to go to school, become home, and like Mr. Walker said, thrown in front of a television. This child was never able to, which she was a highly functioning Down syndrome, that could have gone out and gotten a job or done what you all are teaching. But 59 years ago, you didn't have these things for students that had some challenges. So now these children were allowed to be taken care of by a sibling or someone or thrown into a system. Whereas these students that we saw tonight are able to be independent and work on their own and make their own choices and decisions. So I want to say thank you again and again, equity and inclusion. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Oh, I'm sorry, one more.
I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I really appreciate, the understanding, and again, it's educating the whole child and meeting the needs of every child. Just a couple, quick things, because you said we, up to age 26, but most of the students complete the program in 2 years, but they can stay longer, or they're done with Farmington schools after 2 years, or?
Yep. So everything is based on their goals. So we evaluate every year. We still have our individualized education planning meetings, right? And if we get to the point where the student says, I'm ready to go, I have achieved this goal, I have employment, I have a plan to move out of my parents' house, I'm connected to the agencies I need that are going to support me, then we say, you're good to go and it's okay to go. So there's no real timeline. On average, it's 2 to 3 years post-high school that these students are able to achieve those goals. Obviously, we've had some that might be 4 or 5, but yes, students are eligible to stay till 26, but often in the prep program, they don't stay that long because they don't need to.
Okay, And this is something that's in addition to our Visions program?
Correct.
Because we still have our
Yep,
Visions
because we do
program
have
also.
students that do need Visions and the support that Visions gives, and they do need the time to 26 to learn the skills that they need and the support that Visions provides. There's, much support there, where prep, there isn't as much support. It's more the student being empowered, and they don't need that adult with them as much as some students at Visions might need that.
Okay, so again, it's seeing where every student is and meeting their needs
Yep.
and then going forward.
It's another
So-
way to deliver those transition services.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for the
Thank
work
you.
that you do.
Dr. Blau has a question or comment.
How do students access this program? I mean, how do our students find out about it, and how do our students access
Yeah.
your services?
So when we're doing planning for students, as we do every year, when we have our individualized education plans, we always talk about transition. Where do you see yourself next year, the year after, the year after? What are your goals for when school is all done? And so we're talking with parents about that every year, starting at age 14. We talk about that every year. So we try to make it known to the parents, the students. These are sort of like your options. This is sort of the path you're taking. If we see that prep is a good place for you to achieve your goals, then we're going to talk about that. So it is a team decision that we talk about, and we say, yep, you're motivated to go here, then this program is for you. This makes sense for you to do when you are done with your 4 years of high school, would be this program. So it's all part of the planning that we do with parents and students every year.
Amazing.
And
It's
you
just
ask-
amazing.
You ask how do parents find out, or how do we find out about it? Every year, we hold a informational session for parents to come and ask questions and find out if this is a good spot for their children.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing for our kids.
Thank you.
Amazing. Amazing.
Thank you. We will now move to reports from board committees. The first is the Legislative Committee. Are there any reports, Dr. Blau?
Yes, we met, we are in the process of gathering information from other boards throughout the area and throughout the state to find out who else has a legislative committee, how they are organized, what kinds of works they are doing, both for their own districts as well as in connecting with other school boards. So we're kind of in the very beginning process of figuring out what our goals are as a committee and the directions we want to take moving forward. We're reaching out to OCSBA and MASB for some guidance as well.
Thank you, Dr. Blau. The next board committee report comes from the Communications and Community Engagement Committee. Mr. Walker?
As you had an opportunity to see, President Williams, we are finalizing the draft of our communications plan. I suspect that we'll be able to present that to the board as a final document sometime next week. And my recommendation would be is that it would be used as a document of expectation for new members who come on board so that they would know how to conduct themselves as they come into this particular role. In addition to that, as a part of community engagement and finding ourselves very pleasantly at FAPPIN's open house, we're also operating as an additional voice for parents who have questions about certain aspects of the district and routing those questions to the appropriate person. So we didn't have our formal meeting yesterday because Dr. Delgado is under the weather, but we've been having something of an email conversation to circle back on some of the parent questions that they had coming out of that open house. So productive, informal, non-meeting, but we're moving forward on our goals and we're getting ready to wrap them up.
Perfect. I was really pleased and impressed with the document that the Communications and Community Engagement Committee put together. So thank you so much for pulling that together.
Thank you to my colleagues.
Next, we will move to discussion items and verifying that we have no discussion items. We are now ready to move to public comment. We're moving to the public comment portion of the meeting. Mrs. Starren, would you mind checking our overflow room just to see if there are any members in the overflow room who wish to speak? Right now, I have 4 public comment cards. We have the opportunity to speak at public comment. If you would like to speak at public comment, again, the comment cards are on that table in this room. They are also in the overflow room. You can make public comment anytime until I call for a stop to public comment. The first person we have is Mr. Lucas Lasecki. Would you please come to the podium? The next person we will have is Bill Lovaway. You are next, Mr. Lovaway. Mr. Lasecki, you will have 3 minutes. Mrs. Angie Smith will have a timer. We'll try to give you a little warning when you have a minute left.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I couldn't make the last meeting on the 11th, but I did catch some of the public comments on TV 10. And since the lion's share of them were from parents and adults, a lot of them even from outside the district, I thought I'd give a student's perspective on Farmington's diversity and equity education. I'm proud to have called this community my home for all my 17 years. I think our diversity is what really makes us stand out from the sea of suburbs around us. Even though I'm currently an 11th grader in another district, I think my time in Farmington schools, all 10 years from Wood Creek to Farmington High, really shaped my worldview and made me a better person and a better citizen. I want to discuss one instance in particular. It was a community conversation a few years ago at East, where adults and students from the community were invited to a roundtable discussion about race. And this is something I really hadn't talked about much back in the 2010s in school at that point. Outside of the usual mentions of Dr. King and the civil rights movement in history classes and the annual Black History Month program, there really wasn't much. But this kind of gave me the opportunity to hear from Black and brown members of the community, and I didn't realize all the struggles from systemic racism that people faced, from redlining to communities opting out of SMART and public transit. This really just enlightened me, and it kind of inspired me to learn more about this. Now, to be clear, this was outside of the classroom, a lot like the 21 Days of Equity Challenge, and it was mostly intended for adults. In fact, if I remember correctly, I was the only student there. Maybe there were 1 or 2 others. But I think there should be more discussion of this in the classroom, honestly. There's not enough. There should be more. A lot of people deride these as dangerous ideas and indoctrination, but I think it's really an opportunity to inspire students to take political action, because there's so many young people that aren't active in our republic, and I think that if they're inspired and aware of what's going on in the world around them, they'll want to have a say and do something to impact change. I would like to thank the board for their efforts and for considering my point of view and my suggestions, and happy Board Appreciation Month, too.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bill Lovaway, and I've been following this school board since 1975, when we moved into Farmington Hills. And today I'd like to offer a challenge to this board to give equal time to a 21-day 1776 challenge. And this is kind of in line with what Dr. Delgado's comments were at the last meeting about his Optimist Club meeting that he went to, and he was impressed with the positive aspects of the club and their outlook. And I'm in favor of that. So the 21-day 1776 Equity Unites Challenge is based on the book Red, White, and Black, and which I discovered in my wandering. And it is a opportunity-focused book, and its vision is one of opportunity, as seen through the eyes of its founder, Robert Woodson. And it has 4 components. 1, recognizing that the modern U.S. is a good society where people of all backgrounds can and often do succeed. 2, rejection of racism as a catch-all explanation for black problems. 3, advocating for alliances between blacks, whites, and others to solve American problems. And 4, teaching useful skills rather than basket-weaving intersectional nonsense. And so what I think is, it's time that we focus on our primary goal, which is education. And so what I am talking about here is diversity, opportunity, and inclusion as our goals, as far as education goes. And I really think that we've kind of fallen behind with the pandemic and fallen behind because of our focus on other activities. And I'd like to propose that we actually focus in on education as our primary goal. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Sunday Taylor, and after Sunday Taylor, we have David Villar. Mrs. Starren, do we have anybody in our overflow room? Okay, thank you. Mrs. Taylor, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, hold on one second. I want to start with an African proverb that says, "A child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth." And that has always resonated me, having come through school as a person with a learning disability, dyslexic, having aged out of foster care to homelessness, which was the plan back when I was coming up, being institutionalized with children who were deaf. They had no other problem but that their families refused to learn to communicate with them. Children who were autistic, who were spending their days in mechanical restraints because people didn't teach them how to ask for what they wanted. So when we talk about why equity, diversity, and inclusion, I feel like one of the most poignant proponents for equity, diversity, and inclusion at the last board meeting was Mr. Raskowski, who organized the anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion protest, but came to the microphone and told the story about coming through this district with a disability and the degradation and abuse that he received from teachers in this district. And we'd love to say 30 years ago when Mr. Raskowski and I were coming through school, this district was one of the 16 or so districts I came through, that things have changed. But I can tell you I've sat in an IEP recently where somebody said a disabled student in one area didn't need services because they were so bright. So disabled and bright are not opposite descriptors. Because somebody has a math disability and can score in the 98th percentile doesn't mean they don't need services in math, that they're in the 4th percentile. And so these are things that are still happening in our district today, yesterday. And so that is why equity, diversity, and inclusion is important, and not just for members of the community, but for our teachers and our staff, because we're still giving disabled students like Mr. Raskowski, who struggle with dyslexia, the same messages that he got, that I got, that the children, dozens when I fostered, who came through my home, got from their schools. And that is why the focus on equity, diversity, and inclusion matters, because the child that does not feel embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth.
Mr. Villar, and then we have Henrietta Forshee.
Hello, my name is Henrietta Forshee, and I'm an occupational therapist. So when all of these different groups were coming up, it just made me feel so good about what's happening at the school system and through this community of Farmington that I've been a whopping 2 years in, and so I've been looking forward to. And I just assumed that Farmington had all these marvelous things going on, and I was so excited about being here. And then I saw this article in the Detroit News, and it's by Ingrid Jacques. And so I'd like to get to know you all and talk to you personally, because it seems like there's a difference going on here, and I'm really concerned about the difference. It said elements of critical race theory and similar ideologies are alive and well in Michigan classrooms, and these all strive to paint the country as inherently racist. Parents are very aware of this, and that's contributed to some of the heated protests at school board meetings around the state and nation. For an example of this, look no farther than Farmington Public Schools, which late last fall encouraged the school community to participate in a 21-day equity challenge. The challenge was available on the district's website through December, but has since been taken down. Students, half of whom are white in the district, weren't required to join in. The district claims it wanted to use this knowledge to confront bigotry, hatred, and discrimination against any individual or group, and says the challenge was fashioned after one of the United Way and put together aimed at building an equity habit. These activities were completely optional, and community members were invited to participate in as many or as few of the activities as they would like, stated Bobby Goodrum, Assistant Superintendent of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and the organizer of the challenge. But some of the suggestions were extreme. Participants were offered a personal action plan with detailed ideas of how they could further the equity mission. That included joining a Black Lives Matter or an affiliated protest, providing water, snacks, and basic first aid supplies near protest sites, and donating to bail efforts supporting people arrested for protesting against injustice. Remember, the founders of Black Lives Matter have openly expressed their alignment with Marxism, about as far from our system of democracy as you can get. On another day of Farmington's challenge, the focus centered on learning about microaggressions, such as calling America, quote, land of opportunity. I was very saddened to see all this, and that to hear this kind of, it just seems like Farmington seems so caring and nurturing and loving, and when I'm out, anyway, but I'm looking forward to talking with you all about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Danielle Ware, and then Jordan Scrimger. Jordan Scrimger is my last comment card. If anyone else is in, I'm sorry?
You forgot this gentleman.
David?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I called you before Mrs., I apologize. Come on up, David.
No worries.
I apologize.
It happens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. King had a dream that we would not be judged by the color of our skin, but he did not say to ignore the fact that others are judging us and to do nothing about it. That is the mistake that people who are against critical race theory make. People have suggested that we have a 1776 challenge, but that's already been accepted. Every day we teach American history. We teach it from the point of view of the established government agencies in this country. We have Veterans Day, July 4th, and many other holidays that sanction that. People with disabilities are not being told to be quiet when they experience discrimination. And we do take action to provide services, as you see, that help them augment their lives. We should do that. Elements of CRT are alive and well in our society. Good. I hope that they increase. Because while people lament and worry about the fiction that they call Marxism, there is a University of Pennsylvania law professor, Amy Wax, who openly teaches racist ideologies against Asians, wondering if they even have a love of American values. In Florida, a 7-year-old black child was abused by a teacher and falsely accused of stealing a cell phone. This was all within the last 2 weeks. I wonder what the racist people of this country that we should ignore will do next week. What are they going to do tomorrow? So while we pretend that racism is over, we basically are saying, every time a black person complains about racism, ignore it. they're just a Marxist. They just want to promote communism. But when white people come here and lie about critical race theory to try to scare the rest of us into thinking that there's a communist threat, what they're really telling us to do is to believe them because they have a good, loving American heart. Us Negroes and us Asians, we just ain't got it. That is offensive, and I'm tired of it. I am tired of hearing about Marxism. I am tired of hearing about communism. I hear more about it from these anti-CRT liars and these anti-woke liars than I actually hear from apparently the woke crowd. Marxism has nothing to do with this. Stop trying to make it easier for white supremacists to hurt our children. We will not allow it to happen.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Danielle Ware from Community Equity Organization, and honestly, when I came to do one major thing, and that was to thank you. I want to thank you to the school board and to the administration for standing tall at the last meeting and sharing very clearly that you support diversity, equity, and inclusion. But I came tonight, and then I was just totally thrown off guard because you had all of these fantastic things that show how you put equity into action and inclusiveness. My hat is off to Dr. Goodrum, to Mr. Chris O'Brien, and the rest of the CSS team. I just want to share a very quick story as to why this is super important to me. A couple of years ago, I lived near one of the high schools, and I know when homeless children are walking through my neighborhood. I figured it out one day because I saw this young man. He just kept walking at all hours of the night through my neighborhood. And I figured out he was homeless. And he never missed a day of school because he would just walk the neighborhood till it was time to school. I tried to get him help, but I did not know where to go. Once I had my daughter figure out who he was. But I took it to the school, I took it to the counselor, and he did not get the help. I wish I had known about this organization. Now, did he graduate? Yes, he did. That was the beauty. He graduated and he went off to college. But when I noticed him walking in my neighborhood, it was 8 degrees at night. It was below zero. We were having our below zero nights as well. So if I could have gotten to a Miss Ligon or gotten to Miss Shanae, I would have done absolutely that. So I thank you very much for having the foresight to expand the CSS group because it is needed. We have homeless children that are walking in some of our subdivisions. Just look out your window at certain hours of the night and you might see them. Thank you guys for everything you're doing.
All right, good evening, board. My name is Jordan Scrimger, and I'm a 2015 Harrison alum and also a community member. I'm here tonight because I'm committed to showing up for our schools and our board in the same way that you all are showing up for the district, or students in the district. I just wanted to share that I was heartened to hear the report from the Diversity and Innovation Strategic Planning Committee at last meeting and appreciated hearing about their engagement strategy with different constituencies like parents and teachers. While there is inflamed rhetoric about this committee's work in this current moment, what they are doing is so necessary. I understand why some community members are so alarmed by media coverage of the 21-Day Equity Challenge, because that coverage has been written to do just that, fan fear and alarm. The antidote to this is truth, and what's true is that justice is the foundation from which learning is even possible. Dr. Goodrum and the CSS team referred to this earlier, right? That students cannot process information or pass tests when they don't feel valued, or they're hungry, or they face disproportionate punishment inside of our classrooms. Briefly to conclude, and I know you can't answer me directly at this current moment, but I would love to know if you have a plan to make a report around where the district has allocated its ARP or ESSER 3 funds in a way that has been broken out from the general public, or from the general budget rather. The state and federal government have required that these funds be used to address educational opportunity gaps due to COVID, and I would love to learn a little bit more about where the district is investing these dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we do not have any more public comment cards. If anyone is interested in sharing public comment, this is the moment to do so. I am looking around and I do not see anyone waving their hand, so we are now closing the public comment period. Again, we are closing the public comment period. We thank everyone for making public comment. We appreciate hearing from our community. At this time, we will now move to action items, and we do not have any action items for today. So we will move on to items from the treasurer. Mrs. Heinrich.
Yes, I have some expenditures. I move that the Board of Education approve the expenditures.
Sorry, can we just, thank you. Mrs. Heinrich,
Okay.
go forward.
All right, I move that the Board of Education approve the expenditures as outlined in the expenditure printout dated January 25th, 2022 as follows. General Fund, $12,779,354. General Fund Athletics, $127,192. Debt Fund, $1,196. Capital Projects, Technology and Other Projects, 0. Capital Projects, 2018 Bond Fund, $139,021. Capital Projects, 2020 Bond Fund, $698,743. Nutrition Services Fund, $355,184. Benefits Stabilization Fund, $1,638,537. Total, $15,739,227.
Support. Motion made by Mrs. Heinrich, supported by Mrs. Smith, to approve the items from the treasurer. Are there any comments, questions? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you. We will now move to the consent agenda. Mr. Rich?
Thank you. I move that the Board of Education approve the January 25th, 2022 consent agenda as follows. A, approval of minutes for the January 11, 2022 regular meeting. B, the Head Start Director's monthly report. And C, personnel items.
Support. Motion made by Mr. Rich, supported by Mrs. Smith, to approve the consent agenda. Are there any questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. We will now move to reports from board representatives. Are there any reports? Mr. Walker?
Just briefly, as I mentioned earlier, FAPPIN had its open house this past Thursday, a very successful event. Several, as you know, many of the board members were there to participate, and Dr. Goodrum was the key speaker on that particular night. It was just a really great start and a nice rollout from their Super Saturdays, which are continuing, and wanted to continue to lift up that they need tutors for their Super Saturdays because there's a high demand for the tutoring and the services that they're so happy providing. So I'm going to continue to encourage folks who fall into that particular lane to do so, and continue to support the work of FAPPIN. They're doing a fabulous job. Thomas Hall, the president, is here as well, and Victoria, and we already know about Mr. Thomas and his contribution as well. So that's what I want to share.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. And to that end, I will just make an announcement. I usually do this towards the end of the year, but since you mentioned that we're in need of tutors, about 3 years ago, my family started a scholarship for student volunteers. Any student who is volunteering for FAPPIN, particularly who is helping to tutor, is given priority for that scholarship. So again, the Weems Scholarship will come out in March of this year. Again, we'll do this every year, and we prioritize students who tutor. So that is hopefully an incentive to student tutors. Thank you for that. Any other board representative reports? Seeing none, we will move to recommendations for future agenda items. Any recommendations? Seeing none, we'll move to good and welfare. Ms. Smith, and then Mrs. Dr. Blau.
The last meeting that we had, unfortunately, we could not look at all of this artwork that drapes these beautiful walls. These are our students throughout this district. And Ms. Weems and I had the opportunity to come and meet with some of the students. And there's one student that really stood out to me. Her name is Joy Lyons. And Joy is truly a joy. And we were able to have a conversation about her work, and she even sells her artwork. So when we start talking about this equity and inclusion, let's look at these pictures. None of these pictures show what ethnicities these students are. And since we're on the subject of that, our last meeting was kind of very touching in a lot of ways. And I'll say this to the public. You know, there's three sides to a story: our side, their side, and the truth. And when you hear some people that are against that, it reminds me, I do a lot of analogies. I learned this from my grandparents. It's just like if you tell a child that you can't get that expensive pair of shoes or that expensive pair of jeans, and they go back and tell their friends, my parents said they're not giving me anything. That's not what you were told. You were told that we were going to do things, but we're constantly telling people we are not teaching CRT. People make it seem like that we had our assistant superintendent, Dr. Goodrum, come in with fist raised and said, Black power, and we're doing this all for Black people. What people don't understand is I sit on this board with someone that took the opportunity to not be afraid to decide to discuss and do that equity challenge. And that person was not a Black person. This happened to be one of our board members that were new that said this needed to be done. And I applaud Ms. Heinrich for being the one that stood out and stepped out, because it wasn't just being done in Farmington. It's going to be around Oakland schools. So for people to think that this was something that was done by the Black board or a superintendent, that's not true. And what made us have equity audit, if any of you recall, a few years back, the year 2020, we had 170 students reach out and say how they had been treated by the staff in this district. And they weren't all Black. These students were Middle Eastern, and you even had white students that felt a little discomfort because of how their students were feeling. And when those students reached out and asked for help, there was a couple of board members that stood up and said, this is not acceptable. So if you'd had another 170 students, that would have been a graduating class. So at the end of the day, when people say they don't want equity taught, we just had our liaisons to come in here to talk about saving people that are homeless. Farmington and Farmington Hills are being penalized for thinking that we're a rich community. But we have kids here that are struggling as well. We had our special ed department come in here and speak. Not one time did you hear from anyone in this community that we were doing something wrong. But what has been done wrong is the hate mail that our board president and the rest of us has received, and the things that have been said that has been hurtful. So at the end of the day, I mean, our students have been called refugees. Refugees. We've even had our FAPPIN group attacked. We've been accused of not having Black fathers in our homes. So there should not be any fear. The only thing we are teaching these students is how to get along. So the paper is going to print whatever because they need a story. I personally take the paper and I wrap my garbage in it. So at the end of the day, people coming in here verbally and writing and harassing us over things that are not true. It's not. We have a superintendent, assistant superintendent that's sitting here tonight. And if the cameras are showing, I think she's a white lady. She has worked herself and the rest of this community, this cabinet, in helping us with innovation. And the students that are all involved, they're of all different ethnic backgrounds. So I say to you tonight, to those that are coming in here, that are constantly coming after us, coming after our board president, enough, enough. And this is board month. I thank each and every one of my colleagues for serving with me and us working together, especially the 4 new ones, because you all could have ran and went the other way. But you wrote it out, and I thank you all for your work, and I especially thank our board president for keeping us cohesive, and our board vice president, Mr. Rich. He don't say much, but he works. And I thank the both of them for keeping us together and taking some of the stuff, some of the heat that has been, if you all really love children, do this for the children. But the male, think about it before you push that button send. Would you want somebody to talk to you the way you've been talking to us? I wouldn't. And most of you have come in here and sat and heard, this is not what's being taught. So I'm saying again, think before you push that send button, and also keep in mind, we're elected officials. So those things that you're sending can be turned into the police departments. So I asked you to think before you push send, think before you come in here, get all 3 sides of the story. Not just the side that somebody is saying, I don't want it taught. Thank you, Ms. Weems.
Thank you. Dr. Blau?
I just wanted to give a couple of shout outs. First to 3 students. I really enjoyed a lot of the MLK Day activities, and I especially enjoyed the student panel, the idea panel. There was such wisdom in our young people. Natasha shared, instead of calling others out, that we should bring them in. Megan said, instead of telling people what is wrong and bad, teach them what is right. Both Natasha and Paris mentioned the neuroplasticity of the brain and how, old dogs can learn new tricks. So Paris spoke about having patience, representation, and learning through conversation. So I hope that going forward, our board can continue to engage in conversations with the community around these issues so that we can find common ground together. Also, I was out in the community and at the pharmacy and ran into someone. We were both waiting for prescriptions, and it turns out she is a parapro at Forest. While we were waiting, we had a wonderful conversation. Her name is Ashley Solis, and I wanted to thank her for all of her fine work and dedication to the Reading Resource Room students at Forest. And finally, I am so enjoying doing the tutoring on Saturdays, but we need more people. So when I first got there this Saturday, I think I had 7 different students of all different grade levels, and it was kind of like my classroom, which is okay. But we can use help even if you're only able to come for half an hour or an hour. It is, bless you, it is such a delight to work with these young people, and they are so excited and eager to work with us. So come on out, Saturdays, 9 to 11, right here.
Thank you. Mr. Walker, and then Mrs. Heinrich.
Thank you. In this beginning of this year, I've been a little more reflective, and I just think that if our community could just take a step back leave the politics out of things for just a moment and look at the work that's being done in our school district by our staff, by our administrators, the programs that we have, the level of innovation that is being rolled out in the midst of a pandemic, when everybody is taking backward steps. This entire district and its students and its teachers, everybody are working hard to take these steps forward and are doing so. To just look at the work, and people want to think that there's some sort of power grab with the 7 people who sit on these tables. I still haven't seen the money. Whatever that big pot of gold is that they say is out there, I still haven't seen it. Still trying to figure out where this power is. But I have learned that this is not a power grab. This is a service grab. Just like every single person who came up here tonight and have come up at our meetings, and I wish people would tune in and watch the meetings. Don't pay any attention to us. Pay attention to the people who show up at the lectern and at the stands to see the work that's taking place. Then when those articles come up, you've got evidence that you've seen, heard, and felt to combat, I want to say the print, showing my age, the digital print that you're reading in that moment. It is a rare thing to be in the midst of and recognize when you're in the midst of a transformation. That thing can go either way. But I really believe in my heart of hearts with this leadership here, with Dr. Delgado, Dr. Coffin, these fine people here, our teachers, our students, our parental communities and colleagues like the PTA and FAPPIN, we can transform and be something that everybody looks at and says, yeah, they went through the fire, but they rose like the phoenix.
Oh, yes.
And that's what I really believe, and that's what I want us to be about. So I just want to share that.
Yeah, I want to echo Mr. Walker. This is a great volunteer service opportunity. I'm a lifelong learner. I like learning new things, and I just wanted to share with the board, my colleagues. Plant Moran and Clark Hill had a school law and finance webinar, and webinars are great because it was a Saturday morning, it was cold, it was snowing, I had my pajamas on and my cup of coffee and nobody knew, and I just learned so many great things. You know, somebody asked about ESSER 3 funds, and yeah, they talked about that, and I have a list of questions, so it'll facilitate a lot of discussion with our board, and attracting and retaining talent, which you know, that's going to be some good discussions. Strategic planning for technology and facilities was covered. It was great. And also addressing the substitute teachers shortage. And so it was a great learning opportunity. I was really learned a lot, and looking forward to discussions with the appropriate people at the appropriate times, and just wanted to let our board members know that, and thank our community for, you know, echo my fellow board members, and thank you for your support and giving us this opportunity to learn together as a community, because it takes a whole village to raise a child, and this is our whole village, our whole community, our whole child. So thank you.
Thank you all. Mr. Rich.
Thank you. I know that in her comments, Ms. Smith said I don't say much, and not to disprove her point, but I do have a lot of things to say, actually, for this good welfare. Don't worry, I will limit it to 3 topics, and I will have the first 2 be pretty quick. The first is, I know that other board members have said it, but please get in for tutoring on Super Saturdays through FAPPIN. That is right here in this room. From 9 to 11 a.m., especially if you need any assistance with any subjects. But if you are a tutor or potentially a National Honor Society student who needs your service hours, get in here, get your hours done. We need your help. And as much as I do love tutoring math, it might be better if someone who has taken a math class more recently is doing that. So please We cannot have enough tutors. We have had to, unfortunately say, we can't take in any more people until we have enough tutors to make sure that we can help them, because otherwise, if someone is just coming in and just sitting here, that's not doing them much good. We want to make sure that we can provide the best service possible, and thank you to FAPPIN for making sure that we do that. The second thing is on MLK Day, we had an IDEA student panel led by Dr. Goodrum. And I just wanted to give a special shout out to Ms. Shanti Wilson, who was a teacher who students of all backgrounds said, and they brought her up specifically, that her class was one that made them feel heard, safe, and made them ready to learn. And if that isn't something that you just love to hear about a teacher or staff member in our district, I don't know what is. That makes it so that we are the community that we want to be. It makes it a place where our students are ready to learn, they are open to new ideas, and that is just incredible. And so I just wanted to bring that up and thank her again for making our students feel this way, to the point where without any prompting, they bring her up. So thank you. The third, and this is the one that's going to take a little bit of time, I just want to take a moment, and maybe longer than a moment, to recognize a teacher who was recently retired from our district after 30 years of dedication to our students. Starting at Forest Elementary, Kathy Kopersky spent 18 years teaching nothing but science, specifically for 4th and 5th graders. And from 2003 through 2005, I was blessed to have her as a teacher. I thought that science was pretty neat. Now, on the other hand, from 2005 to 2007, that's when she had my sister Allison. Allison thought dissecting a sheep's brain was literally the coolest thing that you could possibly do. Now, this is the same Allison who's in her 3rd year now at medical school at Penn State and taking her Step 1 exam on Friday. Having a teacher like Mrs. Kopersky was a pivotal moment in my sister's and many other students' lives. She made science fun, enriching, and accessible for all students. Following her time at Forest, Mrs. Kopersky has been a Warner Viking for the past 12 years. She said that she's loved her time there because she finally got to see what happens once she sends her students off to the big middle school and see how they develop in that environment. And while there, she was able to partner with Whitney Tyner to help lead the Battle of the Middles charity basketball game fundraiser, which has been extremely successful, and we can't wait to see it back once we are able to do so safely. The overwhelming wave of love and appreciation for Mrs. Kopersky from her former students and parents of those students in the days since she publicly announced her retirement has been absolutely awe-inspiring. Now, Kathy, and that's a little bit weird to say and call her Kathy because, I've known her since I was VIII. I really hope you're not watching this board meeting right now because you have a lot better things to be doing with your Tuesday night during your retirement. But if you are, I need you to know just how special you are to our community, to our students, and to our district. I need you to know how big of an impact you had on your students. And I need you to know how much all of us love you. Congratulations on your retirement.
Mr. Rich, I would echo those sentiments. I remember being in Mrs. Kopersky's classroom. She has letters from her students from years and years, decades back that she keeps that are inspiring to her, which I just thought was just great. She's an incredible teacher. I want to just take a moment to thank our community. A few weeks ago, we became a pretty popular district. I want to thank our community for coming out to share their perspectives, both those who support what we're doing, and I can tell you how truly wonderful it was to hear from the overwhelming majority of our community that they support what we're doing. But I also want to acknowledge and say that I appreciate our community who still has questions. I want to make sure that people understand that we are available to answer questions, to address inaccuracies. Unfortunately, public comment is not the forum for that. That is the forum for us to hear from our community. It is not the forum for us to have a two-way dialogue. However, our community and our Community Relations Committee is looking for opportunities for us in the near future to have more of a two-way dialogue, because it is very important to us to hear from our community, to listen, and we'll continue to do that. Anyone who has questions, you are invited to respectfully submit those questions in the form of an email. It may take me some time, but over the course of the past year, I have responded to every single email, hundreds and hundreds. I read them all, and I will respond, but give me a minute. Our entire board reads all of the emails, so we are very in touch with what we're hearing and what our community feels, and I think we have a pretty good pulse on that. I also want to thank the board. So this is our last meeting in January. January, again, is Board Appreciation Month. I've been on the board for 7 years, so I'll say a little bit longer than most on the board. However, this past couple of years during COVID has really just not been the best time to be a board member in general around the country. It just hasn't. But I will say, in spite of the fact of, all of those challenges, this has actually been the most rewarding year for me the past 12 months, serving with this board. We are incredibly diverse, all of us with different backgrounds, and I appreciate how we respectfully listen to each other, collaborate with each other, even when we don't agree. I believe firmly that we are all here for the right reason, and that is what really makes this just a great environment to work in spite of the external environment and the pressures of being a school board member today. So thank you. If you don't hear it truly, honestly, the work that you do is so extremely important. The patience that we have with each other, the patience that we have with this work, the relationship that we're developing with our superintendent and our cabinet. We've never been in this space before. And so that's why it's so much more important for us to just continue to do the good work that we're doing and encouraging the good work from our cabinet and our superintendent. So thank you for all of the work that you're doing. Please don't be discouraged and stick with us. Okay. With that, we are adjourned.
Before you adjourn?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Coffin, for sitting in tonight.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much for being here.
All right, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you. Always, Terry.